So exactly how did the cavalry roll their greatcoat? A vastly different way than how the infantry was taught. This week on the 11th OVC, how to roll your greatcoat the cavalry way. So while the infantry rolls their greatcoat in a way to fit their knapsack or in other ways to make it march easier, there are likewise very specific ways cavalry troopers were taught to roll their greatcoat to where it would fit properly on the pommel of their saddle. So in my short time of reenacting, I've seen a lot of different ways that people roll their greatcoat, from really sloppy to really tight, to looking really good, but yet not properly what the manual said. So let's dive directly into what Poinsett says. In Article 6 of Poinsett, it specifies the following manner of rolling the coat or greatcoat. The cloak being entirely unfolded, the sleeves are laid flat and extended parallel to the two front edges of the coat. Each one is then turned up and folded near the elbow so as to give a length of 3 feet 6 inches from one elbow to the other, the middle of the coat remaining uncovered. The cape is then turned down over the sleeves in such a manner that the front edges may exactly cover the front edges of the coat itself. The lower extremity of the cloak is turned up about 10 inches. The skirts are likewise turned toward each other so that they may touch the fold of the sleeves, and that being folded a second time upon themselves, they may give to the cloak a form of a rectangle. The lower extremity of the cloak is then turned up about 7 inches. It is then rolled as tightly as possible, commencing at the collar and pressing the knee hard upon it as it is rolled. The part of the coat which is rolled then is introduced into the sort of pocket formed by the part of the bottom of the coat which was then turned up or turned back. Now, while this is specifically off of Poinsett's, one thing that's interesting that Coggins points out is that when rolled, the coat should be about 30 inches long and about 5 inches thick. So keep that in mind when you are rolling your greatcoat. It needs to be 30 inches long and 5 inches thick. There's a lot of cavalry troopers out there that fold it more narrowly, so less than 30 inches, and they have a gigantic coat that they have to get over or maneuver over once it's tied to their pommel. So it is worth noting that both Cook's Cavalry Manual and Cogden's Cavalry Compendium specify the exact same verbiage as Poinsett's, which is nice for once that we have the same instructions for almost every regiment of the U.S. Army, whether it's for the regulars or for the volunteers, during any theater of the war during that time frame. So the verbiage used in Poinsett's or Cogden's may be a little confusing, so let's just break it down in modern language and modern steps to make it less confusing, hopefully. So the first step is to lay the greatcoat out completely flat with the inside of the coat against the ground with the cape above and out of the way. Yes, I know you don't want to get the inside dirty on have, stickers or whatever poking you on the inside, but that's why I strongly suggest that you do this and you roll the greatcoat on your gum blanket or poncho. Secondly, fold the sleeves up and neatly cover the sleeves with a cape, making sure to fold it wherever needed to make it lay as flat as possible. The third step is to fold the bottom of the coat up about 10 inches. Step number 4 is to fold the sides in to make a rectangle. Now what this means is you basically keep the collar as the width as it needs to be, but you're folding the bottom more into, kind of making a triangle, if you will, making a rectangle out of the coat. So the next step is to fold the bottom again up about 7 inches. This makes the pocket that we're going to roll into. Then what you need to do is roll, starting from the collar, as tightly as possible. Now, when I say tight, I mean tight. Use your knee, use your hands and your wrists, and get it as tight as possible to make sure it conforms to that 5-inch maximum requirement. So once you roll all the way up to the pocket at the bottom of the coat, tuck it inside the pocket as tightly as possible. So after tucking it into that pocket, then you're ready to put it on the pommel of your saddle. One thing to note about doing it this way is that it doesn't really stay tight by itself. It needs to be immediately secured to your saddle to avoid unraveling. So one of the tricks that our members have found out to keep it actually tighter than how the original manual specifies is to overlap the slit at the bottom of your greatcoat, which allows it to stay much tighter. You can see this modification here in this video. Look at how the coat slit is actually overlapped to stay tight. Everything else is the same, but when you do this, the pocket stays a lot more secure and doesn't come out as easy as if you follow the manual to the T. Some interesting items to note about rolling and placing the greatcoat on the saddle is that while on campaign, some troopers like to place their picket pin and rope, possibly even their poncho up front. Whatever else you end up putting up front, keep in mind that in order to access your greatcoat or poncho, whatever's up front, you will have to carefully loosen all the coat straps or remove one completely or whatever without losing the rest of your gear. So when you're on campaign, when you're riding and you put all that stuff up front, make sure that you can access it without losing everything and dropping it on the ground, which is not good at all, because then you have to stop, dismount, get it, and re-secure it, which is not what your commander or even NCO want to hear. So now you know how to properly, at least the textbook way, to roll your greatcoat, whether it's according to Cook's, Poinsett, or even referring to Cogden's Cavalry Compendium. So if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, and apparently now it's important to ring the bell off to the right-hand side of YouTube. So please go ahead and click on that bell, and we look forward to seeing you in the field, but until then, ride hard.